गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम नारायण नारायण। We said adhyasa is naisargika. So when Purvapakshi said that there is no adhyasa, he implied that samsara is not due to adhyasa. Samsara is not a misunderstanding, it is really there. So for that Siddhanti answered that adhyasa is there. How? But it is impossible, he told. Shankaracharya told that you see, the question of impossibility, improbability doesn't arise because you find it. You find it in our experience that it is there. Where is it? There is a naisargika vyavahara. There is a natural vyavahara in all of us that you take. See, language is limited. See, when we say you superimpose, doesn't mean it is an event at some time it is happening. See, superimposition is not an event that is happening, nor it means that it is done by somebody. See, two things. Neither there is a doer of adhyasa, nor adhyasa is an event happening in time. So you make adhyasa, you do adhyasa, you superimpose. All these expressions only mean that there is an adhyasa, you see it, that's all. There is an adhyasa, you will find it. You find yourself in an adhyasa. Each time using this expression alone becomes difficult. Therefore, this is the real implication, and other words we use just for communication. Okay, but this is the implication. Whenever we say there is a Atma, Anatma is superimposed, whether they are superimposed or you superimpose, all these expressions mean you find yourself in adhyasa, that's all. Adhyasa is found to be there. Okay, so he says anyonyatmin anyonyatmakatam. The aham pratyaya itself is an adhyasa. And in aham pratyaya vishayatvam, when you say there is an objectness in it. Okay, vishayatvam means objectness. That vishayatvam itself is an adhyasa. So this objectness is taken to be subject. So in this thing, Chaitanyam is imposed on Anatma. Vishayi is imposed on Vishaya. How? Let us say, Aham Pratyaya Vishaya is a Vishaya. Okay, it is an object. But that Aham Pratyaya Vishaya is taken to be subject with reference to body, with reference to worldly objects, with reference to the other remaining worldly objects. Aham Pratyaya is taken to be the subject, isn't it? That means Aham Pratyaya Vishaya itself is a Vishaya, itself is an object to the consciousness, but we take Aham Pratyaya Vishaya is a subject, a knowing subject is capable of knowing others. This shows that in the Anatma, that is Aham Pratyaya Vishaya, we have mixed Chaitanya Atma in it. That means Chaitanya Atma is imposed on Aham Pratyaya. Because Aham Pratyaya Vishaya is Anatma, but that is taken to be consciousness. Okay. Now the Chaitanyam is taken to be Anatma. How? The very Chaitanyam is called as Aham Pratyaya Vishaya. Calling it Aham Pratyaya Vishaya itself is adhyasa. Because Chaitanyam by itself is no Vishaya of any Pratyaya. It is a Vishaya of no Pratyaya. But once you take it to be a Vishaya of a Pratyaya, Aham Pratyaya Vishaya, that means you are imposing objectness. You are imposing Anatma on the consciousness. When are you imposing it? Here it doesn't mean that before there was Atma, Anatma, two separate, and then you bring them together. Not that. In Adhyastha Sthiti alone you find these two. This we told yesterday. I am just briefly telling and we will proceed with that. So, Atma, Anatma, the Adhyasa. You see Atma, Anatma only in Adhyastha condition. If there were no Adhyasa, there is only Atma, there is no Anatma. So, Atma, Anatma, two things are not seen separately before Adhyasa. Before means without Adhyasa. Because before means again you think of a time. That we are going to deal with in the next paragraph. Time. So therefore, without Adhyasa, you don't find Atma, Anatma two separate. And when you find them in an Adhyastha condition alone. See, when you find Atma, Anatma, you find them only in Adhyastha condition. Without Adhyasa, there is only Atma, there is no Anatma. So this point if basically is clear, then remaining Adhyasa, all this becomes further clear. Okay, we'll proceed. This is what we discussed until yesterday. Now we proceed with the next topic. Tatra kim nimittam loke eva lokaha eva madhyasya vyavaharati. Okay. Then why do we find this adhyasa? First he told probability. There is no Purvapakshi objected, saying that there is no probability of adhyasa, hence there is no adhyasa. He says there is no adhyasa first. For that he is giving a reason. Now Shankaracharya took, without answering the reason, second point that there is no adhyasa. He refuted it by showing that there is adhyasa, you see it. It is already there. Now the reason is irrelevant. Because the reason he advanced, that it is impossible, therefore adhyasa is not there. Shankaracharya told adhyasa is there. Now the reason you advanced is irrelevant. Is irrelevant because adhyasa is already there. Now the next point is kim nimittahayam adhyasa. Why? Why does this adhyasa? Why do you find this adhyasa? Now you cannot. See, this is an interesting question. This is the human nature to haunt a cause of anything. Whenever you see something, you look for a cause of it. Any phenomenon you say, hey, why it is like that? Why it is like that? If somebody brings a flower, the flower is red. They say, why it is red? They say science explains it. What does the science explain? Science doesn't explain why sun is sun, moon is moon, earth is earth, why we are we. It doesn't explain. It explains how. Science explains how, but never explains why. Okay? Science never explains why. It explains how things happen. Now you're telling why you have this adhyasa. So in this thing, the questioner is implying, assuming rather. The questioner is assuming that there is some factor, causative factor. It is causing this adhyasa. For this, see, Shankaracharya's reply, you see, itaretara vivekena atyanta viviktayoh dharma dharminoh mithyagnana nimittaha satyanrute mithuni krutya ahamidam mamedam iti naisargikoyam loka vyavaharaha. Ahamidam mamedam naisargikoyam loka vyavaharaha. This much we have already stated. Okay, in the beginning only. Naisargikoyam loka vyavaharaha. Next we told anyonyasmin anyonyatmakatam anyonya dharmamscha adhyasya. This also we have explained. Now we say the cause of it. Why? He says itaretara avivekena. That is the only thing. Mithyagnana nimittaha itaretara avivekena. Only these 2 points are extra here. Itaretara avivekena dharma dharmino atyanta viviktayoho dharma dharmino. Dharma is property. Dharmi means the substance which possesses the property. Dharma is property. Dharmi is the one who possesses the properties. Okay. So he says, I shall go with the Swamiji's commentary alone. There alone he will explain everything. Chidatma tavat ekaha dharmi. Dharma dharminoho he is talking. There is a mutually mistaking. Means one thing for other. Dharma dharminoho. There are 2 dharmis and many dharmas. 2 sets of dharma. 2 dharmi. Atma, Anatma are 2 dharmi. Dharmi means 2 entities. And there are properties belonging to Atma, properties belonging to Anatma. These 2 he says. Chidatma tavadi eko dharmi. Chaitanya Atma is one dharmi. Anatma is another dharmi. Anatma is another. Tayoho itaretara aviveko nama. Now, due to the mutual indiscrimination, lack of discrimination, Viveka is understanding it separately, understanding it after discrimination, discriminatively, not mixing up. Discriminately, when you understand, it is Viveka, discriminative understanding. Itaretara aviveka means inability to discriminate, or a state in which there is no discrimination. Let us say like this. In a state where there is no discrimination. Itaretara, mutual discrimination. A state where there is no mutual discrimination. Means mutually, which is which, we are unable to see. Both are one. Which is which, they do not look separate. They look one. Okay. Nama itarasmat itarasya vivekaha. Itarasmat itarasya vivekaha. One is clearly distinguished, seen from the other. How he says? Okay. Evam swabhavas chidatma. That viveka means what? Atma is of this nature. Atma is of what nature? Chaitanya nature. Tad viruddha swabhavascha anatma. Anatma is of opposite nature. What is opposite nature? Insentiency. Atma is not consciousness. Atma, insentient means what? Insentiency means Atma is neither capable of knowing itself nor capable of knowing others. It has no consciousness. So what has no consciousness? How does it know that it even exists? So it's very interesting. Does Anatma know that it exists? Does book think that it exists? See, this is a book. Does it exist? Yeah, yes, it exists. No doubt it exists. We know it. How? Who knows that it exists? And for whose sake it exists? Does book know that I am existing? I have a life, I must live. I have a what right? If I am a human being, you call of human rights. What does the book say? I have a bookish right. A book has to say, I have a book right. Stone has to say, I have a stony rights. Because right to exist. Is the book born for itself? Does it want to exist for itself? Does book achieve anything by existing? If book has a Purushartha, it would love to exist and achieve that Purushartha. A human being has a Purushartha because he exists, he knows that he exists, and I know that I exist in this manner. See, I exist in this manner and I want to become so and so. Whoever is self-conscious, whoever is conscious that he exists and he is such and such nature and he wants to become such and such, those who have this consciousness, they must have rights. If animals know that they exist and they also want to become, animals who want to live, then they have the rights. If non-believers also exist and they want to live and they want to achieve something, definitely non-believers also have right to exist. But if believers, of course believers also want to exist and they too have certain qualities, certain nature, they want to maintain that nature and they also want to become something. Now what is their purushartha? Any conscious being is conscious of his own existence and conscious of his character, his nature. When he is conscious of his nature, okay, and if that nature is insufficient, if the nature is not satisfying to you, then you want to change it to another nature. Okay, that means you are not happy with your present condition. You want to become somebody else. A conscious being alone can be satisfied or dissatisfied with his existing condition. Okay, a conscious being alone is conscious of his existing condition. He may be satisfied or dissatisfied with his condition, and he may want to become something else, or he may want to achieve something. This is possible only in a conscience. Now let us say what is insentient. Anatma is achetanam. The achetanam, insentient, is not conscious of its existence. It is not conscious of its nature. And it is whether it is satisfied or dissatisfied, it has no idea. Is the small book dissatisfied and wants to become a big book? Okay. Is this book conscious that it is a small book and it is a secondary, it is unimportant, and the other book is more important? Then I want to become another book. It doesn't have that self-consciousness. Okay. It is not conscious of its existence. It's not conscious of its nature. No question of being satisfied, dissatisfied. Therefore, no question of trying to become something else, achieve something else. Okay. If believer is conscious, just as a believer is conscious, unbeliever is also conscious of himself. Okay. If a believer is conscious of himself, unbeliever is also conscious of himself. Abba. Just a minute. So if a believer is conscious of himself and knows that he is not satisfied with his self and he wants to become something else, what is it you want to become which satisfies you? See, you want to become something which satisfies you. Now I am not satisfied, now I am not happy with what I am. I want to become something. By becoming that, I hope to become satisfied and happy. Okay. But if he thinks that his satisfaction comes by oppressing non-believer, by subjugating non-believer, by persecuting non-believer, does it satisfy him? Is there a common universal principle which we can easily understand and verify that by becoming something I am going to be happy? So in my happiness, so there are two ways. Some people say in becoming happy, when everybody is happy, when I make everybody happy, when I don't hurt others, when I don't persecute others, hurt others, destroy others, in that state of me, I become happy. Some people think that there is another way is by subjugating others, by persecuting others, I become somebody, I attain a state which gives me satisfaction. Okay. All this is immaturity. Okay, we leave it. But one thing we say, That when there is a self-consciousness. Now, anatma is insentient. Insentient only means it is not self-conscious. Neither it knows that neither it exists, nor its nature, nor it has an ambition to become something. Three things. Its existence it is not aware of. Its nature it is not aware of. So, no desire to become something else. None of these three. So, we say a conscious being has these three. Animals and plants have consciousness. They are conscious of certain things. Their self-consciousness may not be so advanced as a human being. Okay. But they have some little consciousness. So accordingly, they also have some desires. They also wants to become something, wants to achieve something. Okay. And as a result of achieving, you get some satisfaction, some happiness, some satisfaction. That degree of happiness may be low compared to the others, but there is some degree of happiness and some kind of happiness. Even among the human beings, there is a different degree of the self-consciousness. Some people's consciousness is very low. Some people's consciousness is much deeper and much subtle. But on the whole, every conscious being is conscious. The degree may differ. So we are only saying anatma is not self-conscious. That means the very existence of anatma is not for itself. Okay. The very existence of anatma is not for itself. The way its very existence is known to atma is meant for atma. Okay. Therefore we call it anatma. So atma is conscious, anatma is unconscious. Okay. At this stage only this much, later we'll discuss more. So evam swabhavas chidatma and tad viruddha swabhavascha anatma iti vivicya nirdharanam. So when we ascertain with this clear discrimination that atma is of this nature, anatma is of opposite nature. When we have this viveka, this is called viveka. Discrimination, this is called viveka. So viveka abhavat adhyasaha, he told. Viveka abhavan means this discriminative understanding is not there. That means what is there? Indiscriminately mixed state is there, isn't it? When there is no discriminative understanding, you have an indiscriminate mixed state. Only two things, either discriminative understanding or indiscriminately mixed state of understanding. Only two. If you have no discriminated understanding, then you have a indiscrimination means mixed only. You have a mixed state of understanding. That's all. Therefore, he says, viveka abhavaha tatha dharmanscha. Now he is talking of the other thing also. But there is no viveka, there is no discrimination between dharmi, atma, anatma. Just as there is no discrimination between atma and anatma, their properties are also not discriminated. Atma's properties are taken to be anatma, anatma's properties are taken to be belonging to atma. That is, atma is taken to be known. See, atma is known. I know myself. People say, I know myself. Yes, I know that I am. That means atma is taken to be referred by a word, becomes an object of a thought. Atma, which is not an object, taken to be an object of thought. Okay, this is objectness is imposed on atma. Then the subject is imposed on atma because anatma is aham pratyaya anatma. We think aham pratyaya is a conscious element knowing the world. Eyes are conscious and they are knowing, we think. Eyes are inert, unconscious. But we put consciousness in the sense organs and we think that sense organs are capable of knowing. We put consciousness in the mind and think that mind is capable of knowing. We put consciousness, put means impose. We impose consciousness on aham pratyaya and think that aham pratyaya is capable of knowing anatma. Here consciousness is imposed on anatma. Okay, so here now not only atma, anatma, aviveka, there is an aviveka between their properties also. Whose property is whose? It's thoroughly mixed up. So dharmans chidatmanaha chaitanyam. Okay. What is the chaitanya's nature? Dharma, dharmi we are discussing too. Dharmi we have discussed. Iga dharma, let us say. What are the dharmas? Atma's properties, property means as if property. They are not property, actually they are nature. But okay, for tentatively, let us take their properties. Atma's properties, first is chaitanyam. Consciousness is the property or is the quality of Atma. Second is kutastatvam. Kutastha means changelessness. It is eternally changeless. Always remains the same. It doesn't modify. Okay. It doesn't modify, therefore it doesn't undergo change. Atma's, the quality of Atma is chaitanyam. Second is it is kutastha. Third is it is vishayi. Vishayi means it knows. It is a subject which knows others. It is not an object of anybody. Atma doesn't become object of neither others nor of me. See, Atma can become an object neither of somebody nor of myself. It becomes object of nobody. In fact, Atma is the only subject. Where is the second subject? There is only one subject and then it is always a subject. It can never become an object. Therefore, it is always Vishayi. Atma is the lone subject, always subject, and there is no subject other than it, and it is the only subject and always subject. Okay, Atma's original property is always subject and is the only subject. There is nobody other than itself. If there were other subject, probably we could think of that subject knowing this subject. But one subject knowing another subject is meaningless. Such a thing doesn't exist. Just like one lamp illumining the another lamp. One flame, lamp means that flame. Does one flame illumine the another flame? It is meaningless because it is not required. The very light illumines it. A light doesn't require another light to illuminate, because the very light is an illumination. Similarly, Atma by its nature is Vishayi. So you don't need another Vishayi. Then another thing is Satyatvam. The nature of, we are enumerating the qualities of Atma. One is the Chaitanyam. Second is changelessness, Kutastatvam. Third is Vishayitvam, that is always subject. Fourth is Satyatvam. Satyatvam means always existing, or the very nature of existence. It is always existing means it has got an independent existence. It exists on its own. It is not a dependent existence. Okay. Okay, sir. We will not go into details. I think we have to control a lot. Certain other details, if we tell, that becomes too much complicated. We will leave certain other complicated details. At the moment, this much is enough. So, Satyatvam. Satya means we generally say truth. Speaking truth, not telling a lie. Let us take the worldly meaning. Truth means speaking truth alone, we say. But what does the speaking truth mean? True means what? What is really there, what actually is there, you speak the same words. Here the truth is, your speech is true to the object. Okay. Your speech is true to the object. Your understanding also should be true to the reality. What is the same thing if I understand, this is a true understanding. If the thing is one, I understand it differently, this is a non-true, untrue understanding or misunderstanding. Okay. Misunderstanding means what? Non-true. An understanding which is not true to the fact, true to the reality, true to the fact. So, true speaking means my speaking is exactly the way thing is. Otherwise, untrue, what is untrue? Thing is one, I speak differently. So, in speaking is true, understanding is true. When these two, true means our thought, our expression should be according to the object. When you say the Atma is Satyam, what do we say? Atma's existence itself is independent existence, self-existence. True Satyatvam means what? Independent existence. But how can there be? There is always independent existence. No, there is a difference. There is a dependent existence, there is an independent existence. A thing exists depending on other. It doesn't have its own existence. See, if I exist depending on other, it doesn't have an existence. Because it is depending on other. When you depend on other, then you have no independent existence. Your existence is a borrowed existence, isn't it? You have a car, I borrow it. When others see me that I am driving or I am sitting in a car and going to some place and coming back, some person I know, his friend gave him a car for 3 months, 3 or 6 months, I don't know. He is going to America and he lent him the car for 6 months. Now people see that he is using his car. See, car exists, but it doesn't belong to him, isn't it? He owns it, he uses it tentatively. Tentatively he uses it, he owns it, still it doesn't belong to him, isn't it? Similarly, if existence is for itself, on its own, it is independent existence. But if others, Anatma, when we talk of Anatma, you will understand the difference. Atma is Mithya, we say, because its existence is dependent on others. It doesn't have an existence of its own. This is where just a little diversion, I tell you, a small point. Advaitins say, an existence, why there is a difference? Dvaitins say there is two realities. Advaitins say there is only one Satyam. Satyam means existence. They say no, there are two realities, two real existences. You can't say one. In fact, they are not only Dvaitins, they are multiple. What you say? I don't know how to explain that. Nanatvavadi we have to say. They are not Dvaitins. They don't accept the reality as two. They accept the reality of multiple things. Somebody called them Dvaitins, but it is not Dvaitins. If you see them, they say Jiva Jiva Bheda, Jiva Ishvara Bheda, Ishvara Jada Bheda, Prapancha Bheda. Prapanchadalli Prapancha, Prapancha Bheda. 6 types of Bhedas. If 6 types of Bhedas, then you can't call them Dvaitam. Then you have to call them 6 into 2, 12. That means you have to call them multiplicity. They are multiple Vadins. Anekatvavadi we have to say. They are Nanatvavadi. Dvaita is not there. Nanatva we have to say. Because they are accepting Nanatva existence. Multiple existences. Multiple existences. Why multiple? As many things as existences. They say there are so many existences on the earth, as many as the objects are. That means innumerable existences. So Dvaita is not the right expression of them. Because from the way they are describing there, it shows that there are multiple existences, infinite, innumerable existences. Okay. Now here we say, Satyatvam means only the criterion. For Dvaitins, Advaitins, the very criterion of existence is different. They say Satyam or reality, both are mean. Satyam, reality, existence. All the three are one. Okay. Existence or reality, both are synonymous. Advaitins say existence is only one. That is, reality is one. They say realities are two. That means existences are two. Now, how can there be another existence? They say Brahman, Paramatma is independent existence. Jiva and the world are existences, no doubt, but they are dependent existences. Advaitins say, once it is dependent, then it has no existence of its own. You depend For what? You depend for very existence. See the difference. See, human beings are dependent. A servant is dependent on master. But this dependency is not for his existence, for food, for job alone. He is dependent on other for food and job. Okay, for food and money and all other things. For job and salary. But he exists on his own. After existing, he works under a master. He exists independently and works under master and lives with the help of the salary. But his existence doesn't depend upon master. Because before he came to master, he already existed. He existed and he only wants to serve him and receive some salary. Here you can't say his existence is dependent on master. His existence is not dependent, but certain requirements of money and other things alone he is dependent. His existence is independent. Okay. Now here they say Anatma, Jivas and the Prapancha are dependent on Paramatma, yet they are separately existent. Advaitins say, if you depend on somebody for your existence, then you have no existence of your own. Okay. If car is borrowed from others, let us take. You borrow the car of somebody for 1 month. Do you say your car is an independent car from your friend's car? Friend has a car and he lent it to you for a month and you use it, you keep it and you use as you like and wherever you want you can take it. Now do you say, I have a car of my own dependent upon his car? Do you say 2 cars? One is a original car, another is a dependent car. They say, yes, they are 2. One is a dependent car, another is a original car. So the dependent car depends for its existence, yet it is another one. Advaitins say, once it is dependent, it has no existence. Okay. The character in a drama is dependent upon actor. Okay. The role or a character. If a role or a character is dependent on the actor, means character is only an appearance, it has no existence other than the actor. The character, that means a role, patra, has no existence independent of actor. Existence is one. Appearance may be different. Existence is one. They say, no. Actor is one existence. Character is also another existence. His existence is dependent, but existence is separate, can be counted. A dependent but separate. Advaitins say, if it is dependent, you can't attribute an existence to him. You can't allot an existence to him. He has no existence. Like a car is borrowed from others. So when you borrow, when you use it, still the car belongs to him only. It is his own car. You don't have another car dependent on him. It is not a dependent car. It is the same car used in a different context. Okay. It is the same existence seen in a different context. Same existence is one Brahma, seen in different faces, different aspects, different areas, different angles. You are seeing the one existence in different angles. Okay. Therefore, as an existence it is one. Appearances may be multiple, but all those appearances have got only one existence. This is Advaitins. Okay, now the time has come, therefore I am showing the contrast. My purpose is not to refute them. Only by contrasting you can understand what Advaitins mean better. That's all. See, when you compare and contrast, the subtle difference comes out easily. Only to understand it, not to refute them. So if they want to accept it, let them accept it. We have no objection. We don't want to refute. And we don't say that if you think like that, the way they think it, it is a wrong. It is a wrong interpretation, we only say. But we don't abuse them that you believe that such Advaita, therefore you will go to hell and you are a wicked fellow, you are an Asura, you are a Rakshasa. We don't say that. Okay. They are respectable people. They follow Dharma. their Shraddha, Bhakti, Bhagavad Bhakti, everything. And for their belief, so for thinking of this Dvaita is only a concept, okay? That the world and jivas are dependent on Ishvara, still they have their own existence. You count them as an existence, but yet they are dependent on Ishvara. We say this is a confusion. It is only an intellectual concept. So this concept doesn't bring you any punyam or papam. Concept is a concept. But if that concept creates an attitude, a feeling, a bhava, etc. So in spite of holding such an attitude, such a concept, if you have a Shraddha Bhakti in Ishvara and do Upasana, everything out of respect, out of love for, you surrender your ego, melt away your ego, ragadveshas you melt away, and you hope to go to Vaikuntha. Definitely you will go to Vaikuntha. You are not Rakshasa. You are not going to be a wicked person. You are definitely will go to Vaikuntha, because the concept is an additional concept. See, to think that, to have a respect for everything. Here you see, to do Brahmopasana, Saguna Brahmopasana, do you need Dvaita as a concept, as a philosophy? I feel this Dvaita philosophy, Dvaita concept is a additional, I feel. Is an additional means it is an optional and additional. Because for doing Upasana, I think the time has come, so therefore I am explaining. It is a little deviation, but I feel, anyway, it's now I touched it, you understand it. So, to do Saguna Upasana, Dvaita philosophy is not necessary, because Vishishtadvaitins have a philosophy. They have a conceptually, they think Jagat and Ishvara is dependent on Paramatma. Dvaitins say they are independent existences. They are dependent on Ishvara, but for existence, Jiva and Ishvara are separate. For existence, they are separate, yet they are dependent on Ishvara. Ramanuja say, Ramanuja means all Vishishtadvaitins, whether Shaiva Vishishtadvaitin, Vaishnava Vishishtadvaitin, Shakta Vishishtadvaitin. So when we say Vishishtadvaitin commonly, Dvaitins also need not mean Vaishnava Dvaitins, Madhva Dvaitin, any kind of Dvaitin. We take Dvaitins in general. Shaiva Dvaitin, Vaishnava Dvaitin, Shakta Dvaitin, or any other kind of Dvaitin. Okay. There, Vishishtadvaitins also Saguna Brahmopasana they do. They also surrender their ego. They'll give Ragadvesha. They get Vairagyam. They have a Purna Bhakti. They do whole life with that Bhakti. They will also go to Vaikuntha. That Dvaita philosophy. So with that Dvaita philosophy, what they say, if you have a Dvaita philosophy, you can do Saguna Upasana. And then as a result of Saguna Upasana, you will go to Vaikuntha by Bhagavantan Anugraha. Then Nimbarka, Vallabha, Chaitanya. Nimbarka, Vallabhas also, they have their own concept of Ishvara, Satyam and Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara they have. So conceptually in philosophy, they may have a different concepts. Okay? In a philosophical concept, Madhvas have got one, Vishishtadvaitins have got another, Nimbarka have got another, Vallabha has it. So 4 types of philosophical concepts of who is Ishvara and Jiva and Jagat and their relation. In these things they have got 4 concepts. But all of them do one Saguna Brahmopasana. Ragadvesha you give up. You give up your Ahankara, Abhimana. You surrender to Ishvara. Do your seva. Lovingly with a selfless love you do Namasmarana and Bhajana, Kirtana and Bhakti and Puja and Aradhana, Seva you do it. Then all the 4 say that you will reach Brahmaloka or Vaikuntha. Even if you can add, even within the Advaitins also, there is a Saguna Brahmopasana and going to Vaikuntha. Now we have got a 5. In all these 5, philosophically concepts are different. But in sadhana, saranagati, bhakti, going to Vaikuntha is common. Therefore I say, the philosophy of Dvaita, Vishishta Dvaita, for sake of going to Vaikuntha for your bhakti is an additional thing, is unnecessary. It is an unnecessary, that quarrel itself is unnecessary. You do bhakti, because Ramanuja's bhakti also they will go to Vaikuntha. They will also say the same thing, Jiva is dependent on Ishvara, surrender, give up your Abhimana, Ahankara and do bhakti, total samarpana, you become Satvika and then wait for Bhagavan's Anugraha. Whole life you do meditate and then devote to him and then as a result of Anugraha, you will go to Vaikuntha. Nimbarka say, Vallabhacharya followers say, and even probably Veerashaivas also say that after death you will go to Vaikuntha. I don't know details. Probably, just so I told probably. So in these 5 or 6 or maybe 2, 3 more, in all these things, so whether you are a Dvaiti or Vishishtadvaiti or Nimbarka or Vallabha, Bhakti is same, Sharanagati is same, going to Vaikuntha is same. So that conceptual philosophy is an additional one, it is an optional one. It is not necessary that you believe that philosophy alone to have a Bhakti and Sharanagati. Okay. So I say Bhakti Sharanagati is the main thing. So philosophy is an additional intellectual thing that you want to have, think differently. Okay, think different. Therefore, in Advaita, this you note this point. In Advaita also there is a Saguna Brahmopasana. Now do you say, in Advaitins there is a Saguna Brahmopasana, there also Sharanagati, Bhakti, lifelong meditation and then Bhakti Bhava, all surrender to him. So as a result of that you will give up your body and after the death of the body you will go to Vaikuntha. Here we don't insist on the philosophy. Saguna Brahmopasana we accept. So for sake of Saguna Brahmopasana, if you take Dvaita philosophy as a philosophical concept, you may use Dvaita. As a philosophy concept, you may have a Vishishtadvaita. You may use Nimbarka philosophy. You may use Vallabha philosophy. Or you may use some other philosophy if there is another 5th one or 6th one. All these philosophies are optional for us. See, Advaitins are against Dvaita philosophy. They are against Vishishtadvaita. They are not against Vishishtadvaita. They are against Nimbarka Vaila. They are not against Nimbarka philosophy. They are not against Vallabha philosophy. So philosophical concept, you may have any of these 4 or even 5th one also. But the Bhakti, Sharanagati and Saguna Brahmopasana, lifelong and after the death of the body going to Vaikuntha, this is a common to all these 4 and Advaitins also accept. We accept this. Therefore, Advaitins did not develop a Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita philosophy in Saguna Brahmopasana. Okay. In Saguna Brahmopasana, we did not develop a philosophy. Only thing is, everything is dependent on Ishvara, surrender to Ishvara. A common idea, that's all. We didn't go into details and develop into philosophy and Dvaita and all those things, we didn't go. Because at the time of Saguna Brahmopasana, these philosophical concepts are optional, because whether you have a Dvaita philosophy, whether you have a Vishishtadvaita philosophy, supposing you are an Advaitin, Sampradayika, Smarta, you want to do Saguna Brahmopasana and go to Vaikuntha. If somebody says, should I have a Dvaita philosophy? Okay. Should I have a Vishishtadvaita? Okay. If you want a Nimbarka philosophy? Okay. Or Vallabha? Okay. Or if you want somebody else? Okay. We have no objection. But the Bhakti Sharanagati, that you must have. Bhakti Sharanagati and Vairagya, Nirabhimanata, that you do lifelong. As a result of it, after the death of the body, you go to Vaikuntha. Regarding philosophy, it's a purely your intellectual curiosity. Whether you have a Dvaita or Vishishtadvaita, they are optional. Doesn't make any difference. Therefore, do Advaitins reject them? Now, at the Saguna Brahma level, we take all these 4, just now I mentioned these 4, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Nimbarka, Vallabha, or I add, if there are others, 5th one also will include. Just we keep the 5th one as a blank, because anybody can be included. So in all these 5, we are optional. Advaitins are not rejecting any of these 5. We say at the Saguna Brahma level, all these 5 are optional. You can take any one. We don't insist, nor we reject. Okay. Neither we reject, nor we condemn, nor we choose any one of these 5 and insist that this alone is required for Bhakti and Sharanagati and Vaikuntha. For Bhakti Sharanagati, you may have a Vishishtadvaita. Or you may say, oh, out of these 4, I have no what you call insistence. I have no emphasis or insistence on any of these things. I simply say we are all dependent on Ishvara and do Bhakti enough. I don't go into philosophy. It doesn't matter. You can attain Vaikuntha. Okay. If you say out of these 4 philosophies, as a philosophy, I don't choose any of them. I have a directly Sharanagati and Bhakti and to Ishvara. Lifelong I do it. You will attain Vaikuntha. Therefore, Smartas, they say, Advaitins say, you may have any of these 4 or 5 philosophies, or you don't insist on any of them. Just to take the common to all these 5 people is Bhakti, Sharanagati, Vairagyam and Samarpita Ishvara. That you follow and you will get. Therefore, at the level of Saguna Brahma, we did not build up any particular philosophy. 2. Advaitins neither built up any philosophy at the level of Saguna Brahma, nor rejected or accepted any of these 5. We are neutral to any of these 5 philosophies at the level of Saguna Brahma Upasana. Neither we choose any of them, nor we reject any of them, nor we condemn any of them. You may have any of them, you may have Madhva's philosophy also. But as long as the Bhakti Sharanagati, you will go to Vaikuntha. Therefore, Madhva's anuyayis will definitely go to Vaikuntha. We have no objection. We totally happily accept it. In fact, that is our philosophy. That is our Siddhanta. If you are a Ramanujas, follow. But the Bhakti Sharanagati alone we take into fact and Advait, that the philosophical, conceptual philosophy, that is an additional one. We say that can be dispensed with, it is an optional, it is not a necessary part of your bhakti and upasana. Okay. It is an optional one. I think I have made sufficiently clear. Okay. So these 4 or 5, that's why in Saguna level, we did not insist, we did not create a philosophy. So to do Saguna Brahma, do you accept Dvaita? Do you accept Vishishtadvaita? In Saguna Brahma level, no, we are not particular about it. You can have anything. Or you need not have any particular one. Have Bhakti Sharanagati and that's enough. All Panchabhutas, Prapancha, everything is dependent on Ishvara. You surrender to him and have a Bhakti, you will go to Vaikuntha. Okay. Only when you want a Nirguna Brahma, then the truth comes. Okay, we got little deviated. But I thought that the point has to be understood. It is an important thing because you don't want... because Advaitins' stand is not clear to many of our Advaitins alone. When they criticize, we are also criticizing. You don't have to criticize. Advaitins are much open-minded. Why do you have to be so narrow-minded? We need not be, because we are open. Now, if you listen to today's talk, I think you will be very open and you will be very relaxed also. Okay? And our stand, you should be very clear. Now here, Satyam, we have little deviated. By Satyam, we mean the reality or existence. Existence is independent existence, alone is existence. They say existence is 2 types. Madhva philosophies say existence is 2 types. One is independent existence, another is dependent existence. They take existences of 2 types. We say existence is only one. What is that? What is independent existence? Alone is existence. Other dependent, the very factor that you are calling it is dependent itself shows it has no existence. It is a borrowed existence, a tentative existence, borrowed existence. Borrowed existence we don't count as an existence. Independent existence alone we count. Now what Madhva say is existence is of 2 types. One is an independent existence, another is dependent existence. Therefore we accept Dvaita. 2 existences, parallel existences. We say parallel existences cannot be parallel. Okay, we leave it. This is only a secondary point. Coming to our Adhyas. In between I do little bit because those topics separately discussing time may not come. Therefore when we are discussing this, taking little deviation and discussing those points also makes you clear, because daily life we get lot of confusion. People ask questions. If I have to deal with them separately, when will I deal? We have to discuss our own topics alone. These little bit of also we'll discuss. Okay. Now Satyatvam. Now Atma Dharma, Anatma Dharma, we are properties of Atma, properties of Anatma we are discussing. How they are Aviveka mixed up. Okay, we are in this topic. So now Atma Dharmas are Chaitanyam, eternity, Kutastha Nityam, changelessness, Vishayitvam, subjecthood, Satyatvam is an existence or reality, Innondu Sukha Dukkha Sansparasha Viduratvam. Atma is free from Sukha Dukkha. It is Ananda, but free from the small Sukha Dukkha experiences. Atma is free from it. Atma is Ananda Swarupa. Then Niramshatvam. Atma doesn't have parts. It all is one uniform whole. One uniform nature. Niramsha means one, only one and one. Through and through is only of one nature. It doesn't have multifacetedness. Okay, many facets, many aspects Atma doesn't have. Many parts it doesn't have. Neither parts nor aspects nor facets. All is one uniform nature. Okay, this is the it evamadaya etc. These are the qualities of Atma. Then the Anatma nature is, I'll just briefly tell because the time is up. I'll just tell in two, three sentences and finish today's talk. Anatma's nature is totally opposite. Atma is Chaitanyam, Anatma is Achetanam. Atma is Kutastha, Anatma is changing. Vikari is changing. Atma is Vishayi subject, Anatma is the object. Atma is a Satyam. Satyam means independent existence. Existence is independent, that's all. We don't say independent existence and dependent existence. We don't divide the existence into two as the Dvaitins do. We say what is independent alone is existent. A dependent is not in existence at all. They say existence is of two types: independent existence, dependent existence. Okay. Now, what is dependent existence is only mithya. Mithya means appears to exist but has no existence on its own. Okay. Then Anatma is Sukha Dukkha Rupa. Atma is Sukha Dukkha Rahita. Then Atma is uniform. No aspects and no facets. Aspects and facets. Many aspects, many parts. Anatma has got all different aspects, different parts, different areas, different multiplicity. Atma has a multiplicity. Anatma has a multiplicity. Atma has a one nature. Okay. These are the two opposite nature. Now these two people are, these two qualities are mutually mixed or they are not discriminated. Okay, this point we will continue tomorrow. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat.